One of the best flies you're going to use in the Columbia River during the summer is this pattern that I'm about to show you, and it's called the Columbia Caddis. Make sure you have these materials ready before you tie the fly. We're going to tie using UTC 70 black thread. We'll use an R72 Mustad size 16 hook. We'll use some golden olive Antron for the shuck, some black Antron yarn for the body, a black neck hackle for the hackle, and some bleached yearling elk hair for the wing. The first step in the fly is to take our black thread and wrap on a good base and end the thread at the rear of the hook. Now I've taken some golden olive Antron, and it's a very, very shiny material. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it. I'll actually roll it into a small ball and wrap it in. And then I'm actually going to take the section I just tied in and bring it over, and that's going to form the trailing shuck. And what you want to do is, after you tie in this Antron, is you want to pull it apart to form a nice small trailing shuck. And make sure you pull it off. Don't cut it, pull it, because you want this to really feather out and look like a trailing shuck off the end of the fly. Once the tail's tied in, I'm going to take some black Antron yarn, and this is a yarn, and it's a lot more tightly woven than the Antron fibers. We're going to tie it in, and this will be used for the body a little bit later. When selecting the hackle, the most important thing is to make sure the fibers are about as long as the hook gap. So once you've selected a hackle, we're going to tie it in at the rear of the hook, and this will be wound up later to form the hackle on the body. Now that the hackle's tied in, I'm going to take this black Antron and slowly move forward. And the real nice thing about this black Antron is it shines, and it also stays really nice and flat. We don't want too big a body here. And we'll just tie that Antron off at the head. Now take some hackle pliers and hook it onto our hackle, and we're slowly going to palmer our hackle up the body, and we're going to take about 3 to 4 turns. We don't want too much hackle on this fly, just enough to help it float a little bit and give it the look of legs. What I've done is taken some yearling elk hair, and this is real fine elk hair, and I've stacked it. So once our fibers are all nice and stacked, I'm going to take the wing, place it on the hook, and make it just extend past the actual hook shank, probably maybe 1/16 of an inch. And then we're just going to tie it in at the head. Take a couple loose wraps first, and then tighten down and take a few tighter wraps. And that way that'll just flare that elk hair real nicely. Move in front of the eyelet and take a few wraps there, and that's where we're actually going to tie off. Don't trim the head quite yet. So what we're going to do is actually do our whip finishes in front, just by the eyelet. Do some whip finishes there. Trim off your thread, and then actually take out all this material on the very head of the fly, and we're going to trim this into just a real nice small head on the front. And just trim that off. And you get a real nice little head on the top of the fly. And there it is, the finished Columbia Caddis. Now, if you ever want to fish the Columbia during the summer, this is definitely a must pattern. It's really essentially a dry emerger. It mimics a fly that is in that adult state that's ready for takeoff, but is still trapped in the emerging shuck in that surface film.